balls. Is that our future? Is that what we're slowly getting to? Like the brains just can keep. Those are rams, right? I thought they had horns.
Honestly, I'm not really sure.
All right, dude. What's going on, Alfonso?
Not much, man. Living the dream, right?
From No Life, right?
Yeah, that one too.
Dude, that's where I first remember hearing about you was in No Life, back in when I lived in Bay City.
Yeah, man. That's sort of the introduction for everybody to who I am and who Heartsick is. I have a love-hate relationship with that, but whatever.
A love-hate relationship with
Yeah.
the past band?
Yeah. Well, not like...
Are the members that are in Heartsick, was anybody in No
everybody's
Life?
the same.
Everybody's the same?
Literally everybody's the same.
So
we just changed the name.
changed the name.
Yeah. Myself, Waylon, and Jared were in No Life from day one. Jake, our drummer, had helped drum for No Life here and there when we needed a fill-in. But he really joined the band when it became Heartsick. So Jake's an original Heartsick member.
Okay.
But No Life is pretty much myself, Waylon, and Jared since day one. I say love relationship because it's where like the band started. You know what I'm saying? Like it's where I met all my dudes. They're my best friends in the whole world. I love all those guys to death. They're all just amazing, fun, wonderful, loving people who have awesome personalities. The band is obviously where we got our start, where we sort of cut our teeth in learning how to write songs and develop, art in the music sphere, how to be on stage. I mean, I have a million amazing memories with No Life. Like, I don't have any bad memories of No Life in the sense of like things that I'm just like, ugh, that sucked. Like, not at all. Even like we were like in a really bad accident that almost killed us, and that's not even a bad memory.
What year was that?
2004, I think. 2005, one of those. 2004 or 5.
Man, you guys were playing and
we
such a good
touring.
Time.
Yeah, we started the band in 2000, and we've been touring since 2001. Realistically, I say hate relationship because it's such a, and that all has to do with like the music. I've always felt that the band was ahead of the curve, and maybe this sounds super like fucking big-headed, but that's not what I mean. I feel like we were really ahead of the curve of what everyone else was doing. Like we
before it got hot, basically, to be play that kind of music.
And in that sense, like what I mean by that being ahead of the curve is like we came in a weird time where nu metal was really at the height of its popularity, and then the metalcore, new wave of metal, American metal was coming in. So it's like System of a Down and Deftones and Korn and all those bands are huge, and they're giving way to bands like Linkin Park's there now, and Head PE and all this other stuff. So that stuff is really taking off and really cemented itself in nu metal, right? It's taking over the radio waves. You've got Puddle of Mud and all that shit that whatever, however you may feel about it.
Right.
But then here on the other side comes this corner of bands like Poison the Well, Glassjaw, Atreyu, Lamb of God, Martyr AD, Hatebreed,
It's kind of like almost like almost all those bands are like in subcategories now too. You know what I mean?
Broken Wings, 18 Visions, Every Time I Die, all bands that we were discovering way before a lot of people, because Waylon, our bass player, like his favorite form of heavy metal is hardcore. Like Waylon is the hardcore guy in the band. Like I grew up with hardcore and I grew up listening to hardcore back in Miami, but Waylon like introduced all of us to those bands. Had it not been for Waylon, I would have probably never discovered Unearth, As I Lay Dying, Atreyu, Poison the Well, Every Time I
Right.
Die. Like,
And he's always bringing up
He's
these bands too. And
always
you're like,
been,
who in the fuck is this?
you know,
All
like,
right, put it on.
Trapped Under Ice, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, you know, Kubla Khan, you know, Knocked Loose. Like, that's that dude's cup of tea. Like, he really loves that. It's not to say that Waylon isn't into other music, because he really is.
Right.
But Waylon is really a huge driving force in the band because of his influence on the band with music. He really loves music. We all do.
Who do you compare yourselves
So-
more the most then?
I don't think you can. Like,
I
it's
don't
hard.
think you can either.
I think collectively we would all agree as a band that Deftones has a huge influence on our sound.
It
and I
is an
think
influence.
You can hear it,
You can.
but I don't think, and that's what I've always said.
But I don't think like hardcore band.
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
hear
and that's
Heartsick, you know.
and that's the thing, and that's what I mean by like ahead of the curve. Like, anytime you listen to anything that we did as No Life, you couldn't really pinpoint it. And there's where I say I have a hate relationship with it, not with the band and not with the music, but with the way that people and their selfish idea of what should be cool or isn't
yeah.
didn't understand, because it was, you know, they couldn't pin, you know, people like things in a box, right?
Right.
The human beings love boxes. It
Mhm.
needs to fit in this box. Oh, this is a Lego set. What kind of Lego set? Oh, it's a car. It needs to go in this box. A dinosaur set. It needs, and people are the same way with it. Well, what kind of movie is it? It's a horror movie, so it's got to go with you know, Michael Myers, Halloween, Friday the 13th.
It's got to live up to these standards
It's got to
of this
live
box.
to these standards. It has to be in this box. And we've just never been a band that's about that. Like, when we started the band as No Life and eventually changed into Heartsick, the one thing that's always been an agreed upon silent agreement is we just want to make heavy music. Whatever the fuck that means is neither here nor there. Is
Right.
it heavy? Yes. Cool. Let's roll with it. Let's see where it goes. And at the time when we were in No Life, we were really getting into a lot of those bands. Some of us were getting into those bands more than others. I was never a big fan of the like emo core shit. Like, I didn't really get into like
Yeah.
like people became like rabid fans of you know, like Under Oath and like, you know, shit like that, like Chiodos, and people were really getting into that stuff. I fucking never, I didn't hate it because I don't hate anything in that sense.
Right. That's
It-
just the way they want to make their
just,
music. Yeah.
it just
didn't-
wasn't speaking to the musical tastes that I have.
Right.
You know, I've always bordered musical tastes in weird realms when it comes to heavy music. Like, the stuff that I like is everything from Deftones to Nine Inch Nails to Glassjaw to Mars Volta to, you know, a million other things. Like, so I was never really, I just liked what I liked,
Right.
and we liked what we liked. And unfortunately, the way the world works is whatever's the most popular, that's what everybody gravitates towards. So when it started becoming cool to love Poison the Well, Atreyu, As I Lay Dying, you know, 18 Visions, and wear fucking your girlfriend's pants and eyeliner and all that shit, that became super popular. Now, if you were on the other side and you had a DJ in your band, or you were still wearing Jankos, or weren't
Right.
or were refusing to wear pants to show your balls, like, people would just make fun of you like that, and they would just hate on you. And since we were a band that kind of did half and half, and we just liked what we liked, I fucking loved Unearth, but I can't play guitar like Buzz,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like in those dudes. Like, that's insane. Like, those guys are like guitar virtuosos. Like, we don't do that, but we liked a lot of the breakdowns that they had, and we would incorporate that. You know, we're huge fans of the Deftones, but I can't do the airy singing shit that Deftones does, you know?
Right.
But we would incorporate it. You know, we love what On Broken Wings was doing with all the like the hardcore breakdowns and stuff, but we, you know, so like we were putting all these things in there and still keeping that new metal aspect, because that's where we came from. New metal, whatever that
Right.
means.
Yeah. What?
You know, so
That's been a broadened category for sure.
so for a long time, people shit on us, not based on the music, but based on the name, because it was spelled Knowlyfe, right?
Mhm.
It was two new metal connotations. And I always knew that the band was really talented. Like, I fiercely believe in my band. Like, fiercely believe in
You
my
can tell.
band. Like, my favorite band in the whole world besides the Deftones is Heartsick, is No Life. Like, those are my favorite bands ever. Because I believe with every ounce of my being that we are just as good, if not better, than a lot of bands out there. And it always bugged the shit on me when people would just blow us off because we didn't live up to some bullshit like box that they wanted us to be in, or because of the name. So that's where the hate relationship comes
People
from.
would even rip on about the name too?
Oh, yeah, all the time, dude. People would rip about us on the name. I mean, that's kind of why we ended up changing the name, essentially.
Just because of people ripping on the name?
Kind of. You know, there was other extenuating factors of it, but that was a giant factor.
Right.
You know? And it was like... So for me, playing those songs and going back and revisiting from time to time or talking about the band drums up a lot of emotion, like visceral emotion from me, because I believed in it so fiercely, and it bugged me that nobody fucking saw it. And it was like, you're all fucking stupid because you're dumb that you're just sitting here. This is
letting
all
this go.
The same. This is all the same as this other stuff. It just doesn't fit into this box. And you're busy shitting on it because of reasons that don't matter, you know? So that's where like I had a like hate relationship with it. But we ended up, you know, it ran its course, it did its thing, we changed the name and then became Heartsick, you know? So, but it's cool that it's funny now because now people's like, oh my God, No Life, I love No Life, oh my God. And like I hear that over and over and over again, and people are just like thirsty for the No Life shit, and I'm just like, where the fuck were you? Like, where
were you back then? Right? Yeah, to help, dude, propel it forward.
It's just super weird, man. So that's kind of where like I feel the way that I do about it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I guess it's different for me because I've always been sort of like the leader of the band, whatever that means.
Well, when you know, vocalists and stuff.
No, yeah, exactly.
It like, just comes with the territory.
It just comes with the territory.
So, like, do you like being able to like go play a show with like Heart of Jordan, just be on the bass and be like,
oh yeah, dude,
you
like
you're the front guy.
Like my sole purpose in joining Heart of Jordan when they asked me was because I literally said, "Can I sit in a corner in the back, rock out, get off stage, and fucking disappear and just be a bass player?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, that's totally fine."
Yeah.
And dude, every time we play that I've played in Heart of Jordan, once I'm done, no one knows that I'm in Heartsick. No one knows that I'm the singer of No Life. Like, no one knows that. They just don't. They're just like,
because they're just not putting two together, or just be. I mean,
I don't even,
because you're a pretty well known dude.
No, yeah,
I mean, somebody sees you on stage. Like, that's what I first noticed when I seen. I was like, oh, he plays bass for Heart of Jordan too. I just seen your face.
I had a long time where I was really sort of in denial about like the reach and like recognition, recognizableness, whatever. For Heartsick and, you know, Michigan metal and the scene and blah blah blah, No Life. Right. And I've never had a good relationship with like accepting that. I'm not in a band to be famous. I'm not in a band to none of us in our band like the rock star term. We think it's stupid as shit.
But the fame just kind of comes with you wanting, like you're saying, you know, I want everybody. Where were you back then? You know, if they were all there, you getting propelled. Well, then the fame just kind of comes with it.
Exactly.
If your music's like well known and you want your music to be heard by everybody, then people are just
going to
know who you are.
And that's the double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, I just wanted, and I still want everybody to care about the music in the band, not to, like, I don't, being famous is of non-concern to me at all. Like,
right.
Fame, in my opinion, has always seemed to be more of a fantasy than it is something that anyone should want to attain. Because if you look at famous people,
I think people are weird that want to be famous.
Yeah, because I mean, I think
there's a certain narcissistic.
Yeah, man.
You know, maybe you're not like a Trump or something. You know, you're just so like narcissistic, but there's just something in there, like want to be like people that want to be president.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I think like if there's altruistic like intentions behind it, cool. But I think like if you're like obsessed with fame and want it, and like if you, for example, if like you want to be like a rock star per se,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of fame within the rock community and metal and stuff, I just think that's like the worst reason to do it, because fame sucks.
Yeah.
There's
You
nothing, to me, there's nothing attractive about being famous other than like people discovering your art in mass.
Right.
You know? Like, besides that, like
you want the band to be famous, not just yourself.
Like
you know, yeah.
The rest that comes with that shit, everything from like you know, when you have, you know, you can't go outside or you can't just have a normal life, like that to me seems ridiculous. So we never started the band to be famous, and I never started the band to be famous or to be like some staple of some community. I just want to make
big shows,
badass songs that I like, that are heavy, and play big shows and be on tour. Like that's, and fucking try and pay my bills and do it, you know.
Right.
That's really all I care about. That's what the band cares about. So it's taken me a long time to just accept the fact that, like you said, like I have a wide reach. Like it's something I'm, through therapy, like worked really hard on, to just be okay with it and
right,
not deflect it. I used to deflect that shit a lot. Now I'm just kind of like,
and especially with the way, with the way like the world is now, where you're constantly, you're having to advertise and push stuff on social media, and you have to have like, sometimes I'll see that you'll have like live sit downs, where you sit down, you know, ask a question, whatever, you'll talk for a little while. You have to like do those things. You have to constantly,
and it's funny because a lot of people do that because they're trying to get that, you know, they're trying to keep that audience engaged. Like, I don't do that to do that. Like, I don't give a shit about social media at all. Like, the older I've gotten, the more I'm like, this is just stupid and nonsense. Anytime that I've been on my Facebook Live or done something live outside of the band, being on a tour and going live,
right,
I just generally want to have conversations with people, and I feel like I want to have that connection. It has nothing to do with the band. Like, it's cool. Like, it's like on a back door of it, it does, of course, because, you know, if you know me, then you know, obviously know about the band. It'd be really weird for you to know who I am without knowing the band. So, yeah, it's really weird. So, but I don't do it within those contexts. There's a lot of dudes out there like, oh, hey, what's up, man? We're here. And I'm like, I just don't give a shit about that. Like, like my band or not, I don't fucking care. Like, I don't need you to like what I know inherently I love.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's nice that you do, and I'm glad that you do, and I want you to, but I don't need you to, if that makes any sense, right? So it's like, I just fiercely believe in what we do, and I fiercely believe in my band. Like, it's everything I do all day long, all the time. You know?
So it's not something that you like feel like you have to be forcing to out, because that's your life, you know. That's what you do.
It's really not. I'm not forcing anything. Yeah, that's just really how I feel 24/7.
Yeah, 24, and thinking about the band and thinking about,
that's pathetic. I don't know, but that's really
dude, it is. Especially like even like doing this now. You know, people have told me, oh, you should start this show saying, you know, this is the Obscured State of Mind podcast. Please follow us here. Blah 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 blah. But I'm like, I just want to have a conversation with people. I want people to just jump right in and listen to the guests talk.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
No, that's a really cool format. You know, it's like I have my own little podcast with my buddy Span, and we just talk about,
what's it called?
It's called Beats and Beatdowns.
Beats and Beatdowns. All right.
Yeah, and it's myself and my bud Span, and we just talk about fight fight sports and like rock music and rock news, because those are two things I love. I love fight sports. I do judo.
You do judo and jiu-jitsu, right?
You know, and I love, which is really funny because like for a really long time, I've always been in love with judo and grappling sports, judo, jiu-jitsu. I've always been in love with that stuff. I've been doing it since I was 9. Judo I've been doing since I was 9.
Judo is more of what again?
Throwing.
So
really quick, like,
because jiu-jitsu is like not like trying to even throw a punch, right?
So judo and jiu-jitsu are the same, but different.
Yeah, there is. I was just learning about this the other day.
Yeah, so here's a guide to judo and jiu-jitsu for dummies, right? Like,
here we go.
I'll just basically judo, jiu-jitsu are one and the same. Jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu, is where Judo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu come from. Judo comes from Japanese Jiu-Jitsu that was for the feudal samurai.
Okay.
What Shigeru Kano did was take out the striking in Judo, in Jiu-Jitsu, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and focused only specifically on the throwing and off balance and the manipulation of joints once on the ground and pins, right? Judo is throwing your opponent. You never strike your opponent. There's no striking in Judo. It's all throws.
Okay.
It's all based off a bunch of different hip throws, sweeps. So there's ashiwaza, tashiwaza, and all that stuff, as well as there is groundwork, right? So in Judo, you throw the opponent. Once you get them on the ground, in the sports sense, you either arm lock and if you pin your opponent, and that's it. Now, Judo used to have all of the same, like some of the leg locks, wrist locks, and stuff that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu does. Over time, the governing body has just made it more of a sport and has taken out a lot of the groundwork besides pins and arm bars. And that's pretty on chokes. Pins, arm bars, and chokes. Jiu-Jitsu is Judo, but the Brazilians, they said, what do we do once we're on the ground, right? The fight doesn't end.
Right.
Because if you throw somebody really hard on the ground, but they're tough and they don't get knocked out, you still have a problem with the threat.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was, okay, what do we do once we're on the ground? So that's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is what comes after the throw. Arm bars, leg locks, chokes, knee bars, like every manipulation on every single joint in your body and ways to choke people. That's the only difference. The Gracies till this day still do Judo, still teach Judo. They just focus on the ground part. A lot of Jiu-Jitsu guys make the mistake of just wanting to be on the ground. And you need to stand up.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to throw a motherfucker.
Because there's two different spots in a fight. You
skill
end up
sets.
starting on top.
Yes.
You're up top.
So I've always
How often do you see two guys start getting in a scrum on the ground?
Right? No, it always starts.
You know what I mean?
It always starts with striking. It always ends on the ground.
Yeah.
9 times out of 9, you know? So I've always loved grappling sports, but I never gave a shit about UFC or MMA. I just always thought it was like a brute sport. I really did. I was like, dude, like, I don't want to bash anybody. I'm a non.
So are you into it now?
Oh
though?
yeah,
now because they
I'm just like,
implemented all that.
Dude, I'm just
but the first UFCs though, I mean, that was like
I'm just like rip his dick off now. You know, like, before I was just like
the first ones though, like were just absolutely insane.
No rules. They were just like, you just don't kill the person and you can't eye poke.
Holy crap!
Like the UFC when it first started, like the rules were so minimum. I mean, it was basically like, don't kill the person, don't poke their eyes out.
Sumo guys versus judo guys.
Yeah.
You know?
It was really about
holy crap.
What is the best fight like technique?
Yeah.
Like straight up, that's what it was. And lo and behold, it was jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It was judo and jiu-jitsu. The Gracies got in there and reigned in the UFC for like at least 5 UFCs in a row, because it took 5 or 4 or 5 for all the people to go, yo, like I can kick Gracie in the head, but if I don't knock him out and he gets close
and he grabs
me, I am done. I don't know what the fuck to do.
You see that guy getting into the clinch and stuff, and you just see the way he's just mathematically working the opponent.
Listen, man, like
I'm not even good at it. I've never done it, but I watch him. I'm just like, he fucking knows what he's doing. He just waiting for his spot.
Those guys are brilliant. They were brilliant. They said, I just need to take a couple of kicks to get close, or a couple of punches.
Right.
If I can get close enough and take a couple of good shots and just get my hands on them, I'm going to win. And that's what they did. And if you see like Hoist and like all the Gracies when they fought in the UFC when it was first starting, like they could kind of throw a punch, but I mean, they weren't karate masters by any means. But they weren't really trying to hurt you with a punch. They just wanted to get close to you. Like that was it. And at the first UFC, you know, all these tough guys and like karate and like Jeet Kune Do and like, you know, Taekwondo and whatever else, Krav and whatever other crazy striking martial arts there was, were like, oh, I'm gonna fuck this stupid guy up in his gi.
Yeah.
And this motherfucker just got his hands on you, and it was like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna live. You ain't gonna survive this shit. I mean, dude, the guy beat the ever living piss out of like some 400-pound sumo dude. Like, and he
It's what was so crazy about it.
weighed maybe 160 pounds or something. You know,
It was the same thing with the sumo dude. You just don't want him to get on top of you.
exactly.
Don't trip. Don't, you know, fuck up. Because if he
There
gets
you
on
go.
top of you, you're just getting crushed.
So yeah, so I mean, I never really got into fight sports until
I can see why they called it cockfighting at first. Like,
Yeah.
this is just human cockfighting. Like, get this off TV.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
And for me, I just, the whole violent aspect of it, I wasn't really into. I was like, man, this is really like, I just don't like hurting people. I don't like causing
brutal.
pain to people. I really don't.
Right.
I'm not into it. Like, as a martial artist, my whole life, it sounds almost like anticlimactic that you have a person here who's like a black belt in a sport and a higher level belt in another sport and doesn't like violence. But we, at least where I grew up and the way that I learned martial arts, it was never for violence. It was a means to an end as a last resort that I had.
Right.
Like, I never wanted to fight. Like, if a fight's going to go on, I want to try and talk myself out of this fight to save everybody hassle, you know,
Yeah.
especially these days. You don't know who has what on them. You just don't know, right? Your best course of action in any like confrontational situation is to bring it down, de-escalate. The worst thing that you can do in any confrontation is escalate.
Right.
Because you don't know what the other person knows, doesn't know, has, whatever, right?
It's truly complicated. It's not just,
It's-
I'm going to beat your ass.
We're
Man,
not,
I black out. I
We're not-
black out.
yeah, we're not in the 70s anymore, right?
How many times have you heard, I black out. I'll just beat a motherfucker's ass.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right, okay.
All right, dude.
You know, sure, try that when somebody's like 7 feet away from you with a gun. You know, like,
Exactly, dude.
it's,
What are you thinking, man?
we're not living in our parents' time now.
No.
You know, people are really dangerous and people are really unpredictable nowadays. This isn't the 50s and 60s anymore where people were just fighting for honor and be like, all right,
Right.
fine, I beat your ass, we'll leave it alone. No, like nowadays, you know, whatever generation is coming up doesn't like losing.
No.
And if they lose, they want, you know, they want a
Revenge.
pound of flesh, you know, revenge, you know. So
Have you ever been in a situation where you're even just sparring or something? You have somebody in a lock and you're like, just fucking tap,
all
tap,
the
so I
time.
don't have to keep.
all the time.
Because you don't. You said you don't want to hurt him, but you gotta just okay, fucker. Like I'm gonna keep going.
All
I'm gonna
the time.
pop something if you don't tap.
All the time. Eventually I let go because they're just not gonna, and I'm just like, this isn't worth it. Like
So
I
then,
don't-
will he get ready to go again?
just
And it's
get
just
ready
like
to go again, and then you just kind of do what you do. But yeah, I mean, I get into that situation all the time in sparring because there's
because people's pain. You know, some people can just take pain.
that,
You
or it's
know?
just a pride thing, man. Especially for men, men in general, it's just a pride thing. Like there's
If you had me in some hold and I'm just like I'm
yeah,
fuck
but
it, dude.
that's because you have common sense.
Yeah,
But
fuck.
there's a lot of people who just, it's a sense of pride for them, right?
Right.
Like losing is not something that they know how to do well, at least in my generation. I think younger kids sometimes are okay with tapping, but even just males in general, man, like it's just like you really have to be putting the hurt on somebody for them to like tap. If you're choking somebody, you'd be surprised how many people won't tap because they don't think that they're being choked until they wake up and they're like, what happened? And you're like, yeah, I choked your ass out.
Yeah.
You made a left when you should have made a right, kind of thing, right?
Right. So have you ever done it anything like semi-pro or anything like that?
When I
with
was a
it?
kid, so when I was a kid, I did judo pretty much every single day of my life in middle school and high school. I got to the Junior Olympic trials. I didn't go to fight in the Junior Olympic trials because by that time I had graduated high school a few months earlier than I should have because I was still 17 and I moved to Michigan. But I still do tournaments. I'm thinking about enrolling in a tournament that we have in Lansing coming up in the next couple of weeks. My goal is to do World Nationals next year in November, World Masters in Las Vegas for Jiu Jitsu. So I still compete for sure. I love competing. It's really fun. Am I like, am I making money doing Jiu Jitsu? No, I'm not.
Yeah, right.
Like, there's like anything
Could
else.
you see an avenue though if you kept grinding?
Too old.
Too old?
Yeah, man. I'm in my 40s, dude.
Right.
I mean, like if you're like,
well, yeah, right.
I'm in
it's
my
the same thing
40s.
with football or anything.
Yeah,
You got to
yeah.
be like 20 to 28.
It's for
Like,
young
once
guys.
you get to like 28, 30, like you better do something now.
Yeah, it's either for young dudes or people who have the money and the time to invest in doing that. You
Right.
know, because it's very expensive to go. And you have to understand, like, if you want to go pro in a sport like jiu-jitsu, because let's be honest, jiu-jitsu pays you. Judo is an Olympic sport and doesn't pay shit. You want to be a paid jiu-jitsu fighter, that has sponsorships and stuff. I mean, you have to be like creme de la creme. Like, I mean, you have to be.
Because
like
the market's got to be like,
there's so many good guys out there. I mean, just incredible. I mean,
but for the ones that get paid,
dude.
and
Oh yeah,
get
yeah.
paid
But I mean,
well,
go to Detroit.
Right.
Assembly Jiu-Jitsu. Those guys have 3 like world champion guys that are getting paid $2,000 or $3,000 a pop for each tournament. You need to beat those guys.
Right.
Good luck. Get through them first.
Yeah.
And those are like mid tier. Like, and then you get to the top guys. Like the Donaher like crew and fucking all those dudes. Like, forget it. Like, if you're
even those guys making like the 2,000 a pop, like, so they're the ones that are running around doing all these tournaments.
they got to go to every tournament.
Right.
Like, I mean, so you're traveling. I mean, you're touring. It's a
You're
different
on
form of
tour,
touring.
yeah.
You're just a different form, right? It's like one weekend you're in Illinois for this grappling tournament. The next weekend you're in Michigan. The next weekend you're in Nebraska. You're in Abu Dhabi. You're in France. Like you have to be going everywhere and fighting all of the freaking time.
Right.
As a 40-year-old guy with previous injuries, no fucking way, man. That shit ain't happening. I'll take my local tournaments.
I'll take my mic and run with it.
I'll take my local tournaments, hang out, and be in my band, man. Like I can't.
Yeah.
I will. I've accepted that I'm never gonna be a professional jiu-jitsu like badass, but I know enough.
But it's
to
a
be good
lifestyle.
It's
a lot of
lifestyle.
people say,
it is. It's a lifestyle.
You just kind of keep with it.
You just keeps
keeps you in shape.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, it's like people who never made, the NFL, but still play like inner city flag football in a league or something.
Yeah, like a rec league or something.
Yeah, whatever, man.
Just keeping your passion going.
Just keeping your passion going,
Yeah. Just like anything, like even music too. Even if like you're a band, like everybody's they're not.
Yeah, but
you still want to play the local shows and stuff. And that's where I would get irritated sometimes when I was playing around a lot. It'd be like, these bands, they're not trying to get anywhere or go anywhere. But so why are they always like getting the good slots and stuff? Give it to some of these other guys that are really trying. Really trying to make it, you know what I mean?
Because that doesn't make sense in a business aspect. Right?
No. Right.
So,
but if they're not going to like try to sell a bunch of tickets or whatever, because there's always a gimmick. If you want a big show, you got to sell tickets.
There you go. So
if you want to get on a big tour, you're going to have to probably fork some money over for it. And people just think everything should be free, or like, why do I have to sell your tickets?
Yep.
You got to prove your worth, right?
And there's that, and there's so let's take wider bands that really aren't, who have accepted and know that they're never going to really go anywhere besides their local home state and play the bigger shows,
right.
Get the big shows, while a band like Heartsick or Hollow Front or Vestigial or whatever else that are going out there that want to do bigger and better things don't always get those opportunities. Well, it's because a band like us is trying to tour actively a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're touring actively a lot, it's going to be impossible for us to promote every one of these shows that are coming up in X amount of radius and play this show and this show, because one of them is going to have to get left behind. Why? Because we don't have the money in advertising and marketing dollars to focus on each and every one of those shows. So
basically it comes down to like, this band's going to pretty much promote this show.
So when you see a band that you've never heard of from Grand Rapids opening for Motionless in White, and you're like, how the fuck did that band get that show? And a band like Vestigial or whatever else didn't get the show, it's really simple. Vestigial has a million other possibilities that they can do. This band is only going to focus on this show, and it's like a really, really big deal for them.
Right.
Like a really big deal. So the promoter and the venue know that they're going to sell all 50, 60, 70, whatever 100 tickets that they're going to get, and they're going to be okay with getting $100 out of that.
Right.
A band like Vestigial, business savvy, they can do their own shows. They know the market, and they're going to be like, well, yeah, if I'm going to sell you 50 tickets, like I want more than $100 because I'm not even making, $4 off of that or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So the venue is going to then look at that and the business aspect. And there's nothing wrong with any of these things. It's just how this works.
Right.
It's the same thing. It's like you had talked about like what we call buy-ons, right? If you want to go out on tour with a bigger band, it's unfortunately become extremely normal to have bands pay for a slot on that tour. That's become the norm. Should it be the norm? Is that fair? I don't think so, but that's debatable. This is all opinions, right? We live in a free market society, the free market, the United States, consumerism, capitalism. We're constantly seeing the people defend capitalism and, oh, well, if the market's calling for it, you should fucking have it there, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, if that's the kind of society that we're going to be, then this is fair. Then talent doesn't matter at all.
Right.
Talent's out of the picture now. Cash rules now, right? Because if it wasn't that kind of society that you wanted, then talent and everything else and hard work would matter.
Right.
But that's not what you're calling for as a society. You're calling for money and, monetary gain. So now it's fair. It's fair game. Fair. So if there's a band in Manhattan that plays 2 shows a year, but has 2 people in the band that have a shitload of money because one's usually 9 times out of 10, one's a real estate person that has just a shitload of money every year.
Yeah, you got the one guy in the band that's
and they can fork over 20 G's to go on tour with, some band, some big band or whatever, and they can fork over the 30, 40, 50, whatever, you'll see it all the time. A band like In This Moment will go out on tour, and you'll see like In This Moment out on tour with Seven Dust, Theory of a Dead Man, and then some fucking band that you've never heard of in your life. That band probably paid money to be on there. And you're like, how the fuck did this band get this opportunity? They're not even that good. Has nothing to do with being good. Fuck your talent. That doesn't matter. They have money. They have enough money and enough connections, because that's number 2.
Number 2, I was just going to get to that.
Connections to get that slot.
Yeah.
The rest is irrelevant. The booking agent does not give a shit. As long as he thinks the music is passable, but you call anybody up right now, bro. Call anybody up you want, and any band that you want. Say you're in a band, send a decent ass demo with an all right song, and call a booking agent that's planning a tour and say, I have $50,000 and I want to go on tour with this band. They're going to be like, well, wait. And then they'll like, listen, oh yeah, sure. Like,
That was great, man. That song was awesome. It fit in great with this tour package I have right here.
That's just
dangling.
And that's what it is. And that's what it is. So is it fair? No, it's not fair to artists like us and everybody else, because we don't have that kind of money to beat out those people. We have the songs for fucking sure. We have the talent for fucking sure. We have the resume for fucking sure. But that shit doesn't matter to those people. It's not about what altruistic means you are, right? Like, oh, you guys are so talented, we really like you. It's like, no, fuck that. Yeah. It's like, what can you do for me? Right? It's like, it's always laugh when bands will get online and they're like, oh, call this radio station and do this. Bro, if you're listening to this and you're in a band, don't fucking call your radio station. Don't request songs, and that shit matters, bro. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care. Like, your band is garbage to them. They don't fucking care, right? Yeah. You don't have somebody calling them, acting as a record label rep in their marketing department to sell you to them. Fuck your band. Forget about the radio. That shit's never going to happen. You have to build that relationship. That's what you have to do. Your market is the internet.
Yeah.
Spend all your money there.
Yeah.
Right? Go there. Like, forget about it. Oh, well, I don't understand why, this band. Well, it's because they have money. Like, I have one of my best stories about this exact fucking thing. You ever heard of the band Soul?
Soul? Yeah. Yeah, they've come around.
We've known those guys for a while. I think the singer's the only guy, the original guy in the band. I think. I don't know. I'll be flat out honest.
Right.
Anytime we ever played with them back in the day, the music wasn't something that like I gravitated towards. I just watched them and they were cool guys and they were a really good band. And I was like, yeah, they're cool. Right?
Not my cup of tea, but they're cool.
We played with Soul in Algona, Iowa. Middle of winter.
Middle of nowhere too? Or
middle of fucking nowhere.
Pretty much everywhere in Iowa is though, right?
Nowhere, middle of nowhere in Iowa, in this really badass venue. There was maybe 7 people there. Maybe. At the time, Saul was a 3-piece, I think. Maybe they had another guitarist.
Were they the headlining act of this when you went and played with them?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we ended up being the headlining act.
Okay.
And it was like the middle of winter. And they were just some local schmokel band, like the rest of us, from somewhere trying to make a name for themselves. And the music they played was vastly different. Fast forward to like 4 or 5 years later, and Saul's on the goddamn radio with a fucking hit single. Now they're playing giant festivals and shit. Why is that? It's not because they're any more or less talented than any other band out there. It's not because they worked harder or less hard than any band out there. It's because they have fucking money. They have money to put behind the machine that they're trying to create, period. They already have the ability to make songs. They already have the ability to get gear that they need.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have the song writing the way that it needed to be format to hit the echelon of where they've hit right now, right? I very picturesquely remember seeing that band play to 2 of their girlfriends and some drunk guy in Algona, Iowa. Now they're where they're at. Ice Nine Kills. I fucking remember opening for Ice Nine Kills in Hobart, Indiana, in some fucking ice skating rink with like maybe 30 people watching them. It's not even the whole, like the only guy in that band is still the singer. That's it.
Right.
And then we're playing vastly different music.
Same with Saul.
Same.
So they were playing different. Now the music that they have on the radio is different.
Way different.
Way different.
I mean, like at that time, that drummer, like if you saw the drum set, you would have thought like, oh, this band's like a Tool cover band or some shit, but like not anymore.
No, he's just got like 2 toms.
Yeah. Like, so I don't even think it's the same drummer. Like I really don't. I really don't. But at the same time, that's just what it is, man. It's just like, what's the price you're willing to pay to get to that next level, period. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you have altruistic ideas like I do, like where talent should matter and everything else, it's going to take you 21 years, like it has us. But if you have capitalistic mentality, you're like, no, the songs are good enough. We just need a fuckload of money. You're going to get there in 4. Mm-hmm. Guaranteed. And I will die on that hill in saying that. People are going to argue with me all day long. Bullshit. Show me $100,000 right now. You give me $100,000 for Heartsick, we'll fucking be one of the biggest bands next year. Guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up.
It makes perfect sense though nowadays. Now, I mean, even when it comes to a simple Facebook post, if you throw $2 on something, you're gonna get way more views. It's not gonna be a lot, but you're gonna actually see that people are seeing your post versus nothing at all. That's what they want. Are you paying me money? Are you giving me something?
Yep.
Then I will promote your post more.
I'll
put it in the algorithm. Just like when they changed from most recent to just newest activity or whatever.
Yeah.
You can't see when people are posting, or you have to go through a bunch of options and then click most recent, and then you'll see these posts that you're like, oh, I haven't seen posts from that person in a long time.
Yeah, they do that shit on purpose. Everybody's like, oh, the internet's free. Man, the internet's not fucking free, dude.
No.
The internet is controlled by the same goddamn people that control everything
It's
else,
still a Wild West.
The internet is really simple, man. Who has money? Why do you think the moment that Facebook started doing band stuff and then started seeing bands blow up on Facebook, they put a stop to that shit real quick?
Right away.
Why did they put a stop to it? Simple. Because they were losing out on billions of dollars of revenue and advertising. They're like, wait, these guys are using our platform to get bigger and we're getting nothing out of it except altruism.
Yeah.
America doesn't give a fuck about altruism.
No.
The corporate machine doesn't give a shit about altruism. Fuck you and your good deeds. Pay me money, motherfucker.
Exactly.
That's what it was. And the moment that they started burying bands' ads, and the more they started burying bands' posts, here come all the bands. Oh, Facebook fucking sucks.
I'm going to a different platform.
A different platform. Yeah,
TikTok gives you an organic reach.
Bullshit. It's all paid for, bro. It's only going to be a matter of time before TikTok learns the same fucking thing that Instagram and everybody else learned. The only place that was like that was MySpace, and they got rid.
Yeah,
and they made sure to kill MySpace. Like,
man, Tom had our backs, dude.
You know, kill it worse than anything could be killed.
You could blog post. You could do everything on that fucking
thousands of fucking things, dude. Thousands of people with no fucking restrictions.
Argue over your top 8.
There's no, right? Like,
not in your top 8, man. Fine, I'll do a top 12. You're in there now.
Yeah. Like, so it was like, there was like no algorithm, you know. Now it's like everything's buried by an algorithm, dude.
Oh, it sucks. And you have to like you said, internet. That's where you want to put all your money into. You don't fuck the radio, fuck all the bullshit. So you have to fuck with it. You have to go on like every social media there is.
You don't have a choice.
You have no choice. And then you got to like sit here and think of daily stuff that you should be posting because if you don't, they just you get buried again.
Yep.
You get buried right now.
Listen, it's getting to a point now, and if you're a young artist listening to this, it's getting to a point now where if you don't have a marketing budget of $1,000 a month, you're gonna fall way behind everybody else. That's who's winning, like straight up. And
because they have the cash to throw at it.
Because they have the cash to throw at it, man. And you got to figure it out. You got to get straight. You know, and something that I always love about our society too is like they're like, oh, well, you know, this person came from nowhere, you know, from nothing. I'm like, less than 1% actually have that story, right?
And those are probably from back when.
Less than 1% have that story. The reality is that society has no idea what they want until they get it. Society thinks they want a feel-good story and thinks that they want the underdog to win. But that's not what they want, right? Because it's been proven time and time again, right? There's tons of fucking people out there that have come from nothing and you never hear a goddamn thing about it. But then Lady Gaga, well, you know, she was producing bands and, you know, just heard her voice. I'm like, you're really that stupid and gullible? Like, you really believe that? You really, like, you at no point thought that she was already producing, like, the bands that she was, the artists that she was producing, and she was like, they're making way more money than me on this aspect, and I have all this creative shit, like, maybe, of course, you know, like, a story I love, because I love the band, and I think they're great, but I always laugh, you know. I was watching some documentary on, I think it's, like, the documentary that the Foo Fighters made recently or whatever.
Okay.
One of those. And there's an interview with Dave Grohl about, you know, Foo Fighters and Nirvana. He's like, oh, I didn't know how the Foo Fighters were gonna do, and, you know, we were just, you know, a small band starting off again. And I just kind of laughed, and I was like, Dave, I love you. You're an awesome human being. But are you really that far out of your depth that you think that you had a hard start with Foo Fighters because they were a no-name band when you're the fucking drummer of Nirvana?
Exactly, dude.
Anything you would have touched would have got press at all. It'd be different if you were Alfonso in the basement of some house starting. That's different.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Not Dave fucking Grohl of Nirvana.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how out of
That's
depth
why that dude gets on my
scope,
nerves a lot.
you
You
know?
know, it's like you said, good dude. Like, he's always doing good shit
like,
on stage. I don't have like a beef with him either, but sometimes it's just like, shut up, Dave.
It's one of those things.
Shut up. Like right there. Shut up, dude.
I just find myself feeling that way about a lot of famous people. A lot of people, because
They're losing touch.
They leave out that one part of the story because they know that then it breaks the fallacy of what the public really believes. The public really believes that it's hard for Dave Grohl or whatever else to do it. It breaks.
Well, they don't want to kill the dreams of everybody
exactly,
either. Because
right?
if everybody knew, it's a cash money game, bro. Like, if your band doesn't have cash,
there
like,
goes the dream.
there goes everybody.
But there goes the selling point. That's the thing, right? Entertainment is much more about what's perceived than what is reality.
Right.
Right? Entertainment's perception. It's not reality. If you kill the perception of entertainment, like pop stars, rock stars, and all this other shit, you essentially are probably going to kill the industry, because then people go, oh, well, all I need is money, and then they just start throwing money at shit.
And that's when you end up with just shit material.
Right? That's the problem. So that's what it is. You know? That's the issue. So for me, it's one of those things where it's just like, that's why I don't, sorry, I got something coming in that I have to take for work, but that's the thing.
We got a busy man here,
that
folks.
bothers me about it is they always leave out the important part of the story that actually is the biggest key to the story, right? It's like, oh, we got back in the van. It's like, yeah, but you were the drummer of Nirvana, bro. Yeah. Or
you
like,
had that big start.
Like, I just started with a few properties. Oh yeah, but your dad was a mega millionaire in the fucking real estate industry. Oh, well, like I started, Jeff Bezos started Amazon, in his basement with $100,000 loan from like 7 friends that had a shitload of money. Like,
there's always a kickstart.
That's what bothers me about society in general. They want to believe stupid shit. But then when you have, and to bring it all around, which is why I have a hate relationship with the whole no life thing, is because when you have the actual story of X people who come from fucking nothing, it's crickets. 9 times out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Right? 9 times out of 10. It's like all the bands that have come from Michigan and stuff like that. Like, people are like, oh, fucking, what's the band's name? Pop Evil. They came from
Pop
nothing.
Evil.
Bullshit. That dude's dad is a fucking mega millionaire from a fucking real estate thing, right? A lot of these people are in these bands come from well-off households, right?
Yeah.
Like, we came from literal shit. Like, I come from a shitty neighborhood in Miami, Florida called Hialeah, which is like lower middle income class. Like, most all like either refugees from Cuba or like legal citizens coming to migrate to the United States that don't speak English as a first language and that don't have a lot of fucking money. Bass players, 100% Native American. I mean, let's get into all the shit that they've fucking had taken from them. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have any fucking money. Our drummer, migrant Mexican family, grew up in fucking the inner city of Lansing. Our guitar player grew up in Ludington, which is like a fucking ghost town 7 months out of the year.
Yeah, it is. It is
like,
too. I remember
so
delivering up there in the wintertime. It's like, there is nobody here.
Right? So it's like 21 years it's taken us. But then you want to fucking talk about like Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
You're like fascinated by that story. Like,
so when did you move out of Miami?
I moved out of Miami when I was 17 and I graduated high school.
So how was it growing up down there then?
It's fucking awesome. I loved it.
Just like the weather and just like, what did you love most about it? Just being able to grow up in your younger years in Miami.
Being surrounded by culture.
The culture.
Being surrounded by culture. When I got, this is sort of a double-edged sword because I grew up in a really big city.
Everything is, isn't it?
Yeah. I grew up in a really big city. And the big city life gives you gives you the perception that you think you know everything about the world because you live in this big city.
Move that mic up just a little bit.
Because you live in this big city.
There you go.
And so you know how the world works.
Right.
You understand small towns and stuff like, because you see it. You have like everything's at your fingertips access. You have multicultural places and shit like that. But when I moved out of a big city like Miami and I came to Michigan, to Lansing, where there was predominantly white or and if just African American, I knew nothing. I had no idea that there were black squirrels or gray squirrels. I had no idea.
Right.
I didn't know that turkeys were wild. I didn't know that deer didn't belong in a zoo. Like these sound ridiculous to you. Because I could see it in your face.
Yeah, but in like Miami though, that shit ain't there.
That shit ain't there, right? So
do you don't see those squirrels going up a palm tree or something?
no, at best there's chipmunks in Miami.
Chipmunks
At best in the parks, it's not something you see. Or the iguanas, sure, you see those fucking things everywhere.
Oh, those are terrible down there. People are cooking them,
running rampant and shit. Yeah, they
falling down dead out of trees.
Yeah, because they're like everywhere. Like they just completely like took over the ecosystem and it's ruining everything.
From people like letting their animals.
Yeah, because people
go.
are fucking idiots too. So
just letting their snakes go and they're growing to just be ginormous pythons.
Yeah,
It wasn't even supposed to be pythons out there.
Nope.
They're destroying everything.
Yeah, and you also have deforestation and taking up land and shit. So I mean, animals are gonna do what they're gonna do.
Migrate.
But no, yeah. So I moved from Miami to Lansing and realized really quickly that I didn't know everything and I didn't know anything about real life. I just knew about real life in Miami.
Right.
I loved growing up in Miami. I loved the culture. I loved the camaraderie that there was there when I was growing up. It's a very different place now. It's very superficial. It's become a lot like the idea of what LA Hollywood is. A lot of people flaunting what they really don't have.
Yeah.
It's become real life social media.
Yeah. Right?
It's like people in Miami will take a picture near the beach, but they're actually next to the ghetto that's by the beach. You know what I'm saying? Like
it's deceiving.
It's like that, right?
It's very deceiving.
So Miami's very different now, but it'll always be home. That's where I'm from 100%, and I'll rep my city till I die. You know what I'm saying? So,
right. So was your new music video you guys came out with here?
That was filmed in Lansing.
In Lansing, right?
Yeah.
Vice City.
Yep. And the song's about my hometown of Miami.
Right.
It's I will always write songs about Miami, Florida, because it's what I know so well. It's what I love so much. But I'm not a one-dimensional character when writing. I'm not a lot, like for example, a band I love, Glassjaw. Fucking love Glassjaw. But everything you wanted to know about Silence, that record was in its entirety about a girl that broke this dude's heart, right? Mm-hmm. I've never written records like that, like lyrically. I don't find one-dimensional subject matter interesting. However, not saying that that's a bad thing. Some people just do it very well.
Right.
I don't.
Yeah, right.
I know my strengths and my weaknesses. That is not my strength. My strength is being able to write about the things that I perceive and see in life, right? So it might be about a breakup, one song, but the next song might be about where I grew up, and the next song may be about, the idea of what must it be to be in a coma. Like,
and some people can perceive it in different ways. That's the beautiful thing about music too. Exactly. Is like you might have been like, yeah, I never wrote that about a breakup, but if you felt, it really related to your situation, that's all I'm aiming for, just for you to feel it.
Exactly.
In any way,
So yeah, I mean, for me, that's what that song is about. Vice City is about the city of Miami and where I grew up.
Can we play a little snip for somebody?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Absolutely. It's also about the video game, because the video game is really fun, and I don't really play video games at all. I have a PS4, but it's there for more for entertainment. I actually have been playing Borderlands 3 as of late, because my wife really likes video games.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, she
really
likes
into
to play. Yeah. I tell her she's stupid because she's super smoking hot, and I'm like, you're really dumb that you're not capitalizing on this shit.
Start your own Twitch channel.
Yeah, start your own Twitch channel, do your shit. I tell her all the time, man. She's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, whatever, you're stupid, dude. If I was as hot as you, I'd capitalize on shit right now. It's the 21st century.
Definitely.
There
we go.
But
let's sit right here.
I do have a PlayStation 4. And Vice City on PlayStation 3 was my favorite game, and I had it.
Oh, Vice City, GTA 3 was really what got me into it.
Oh, dude, that game was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I didn't even play the bird's eye view ones.
Oh no, I never played. No, I did because I was younger. You could play those, but I didn't remember that was Grand Theft Auto. My introduction to Grand Theft Auto is 3. And then Vice City came out, and I was like,
yeah.
shit. And then San Andreas came out, and I was like, oh, shit.
This is my shit.
You know, yeah, those games were fun, dude, you know? Real fun. I mean, they changed they changed the landscape of video games and what it was.
Dude, this I really like this.
I think it's a great song, but I'm biased. I think it's a great song. I think it's a great video. I think it's nothing like anything that anybody is making.
It's
and I
converging a little, just like kind of
in every style.
Converging styles is what it. But it's really got 12-foot ninja vibes right here.
Yeah. Well,
do you like them? You ever heard of them?
I love 12-foot ninja.
They're a great band. And they got that tone right there. Boom, boom.
Yeah, you know, so like it's funny because I'm part of the writing.
All right, you got to go
process.
Listen to the rest of it on there.
I'm part of the writing process, so I know where I'm coming from because I'm in that mind frame, you know. But it's funny when I hear the song, we start talking about it. Right at the beginning, those first chords, like that's a Deftones chord, like 100%. Like go play a Deftones song from like Adrenaline, and that chord's there. Like that's what that's from. And then the verse of that song is basically an Architects riff almost, you know, another band so like I'm listening to this shit and I'm just like, it's just funny to me that people are like, you know, so I went on the PRP because they put us on the PRP and some guy was like, I've liked most of the stuff that these guys put up, but this is questionable. And I'm always like, questionable how?
Yeah, what are you questioning?
It's funny. It's a perception that I see from people because I'm like, what they'll compare it to is nothing of what it really is. When I name, like I can name you what I was listening to and what my band was listening to when we made a song, like straight up. And people just, it's weird how it goes over people's heads.
So is that kind of like what happens a lot when you guys are writing music? You be listening to like certain bands or something, and then you just be like, you shit out something, and you're like, oh yeah, that's art. This is how we were feeling.
Art reflects your influences, right? You just make those influences sound different.
Yeah.
Like, so for me, we're part of all those genres. It's just we're not specifically sticking to that one genre, because to me that's not fun.
Yeah.
Right?
If you got to stick to some sort of cookie cutter in a certain box, like you were saying earlier, like that's just terrible, because now you're like, man, I'd really love to do this, but I can't. It's not gonna
there's a problem
fit.
It's a blessing and a curse to be in a band or to be an artist that's really good at one thing.
Yeah.
And you cater to that, and then you try and step out that box, and people just shit on you once you do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Hatebreed will never be able to come out and make a record that isn't Hatebreed.
Yeah.
Because they will just fucking get smoked, right? So you know when you listen to a Hatebreed record.
So what about Whitechapel, though?
You know, there you go. That's the next example I was going to say. Look what's happening with Whitechapel. Whitechapel keeps stepping outside of the box, and people are like, "Oh, fuck you, blah, blah."
Them. This ain't true anymore.
Yeah, and it's like, how come it isn't? It's still heavy.
Yeah, it's still heavy.
It's
as
still
fuck.
brutal. It's still got those low droning. But
I was never been a Whitechapel fan myself. But
dude,
they played that and they came out, and I was like, oh, I like this song,
dude.
So now you just gained that much more of an audience that was like, I don't like Whitechapel because I just can't get into it. And
fuck those people. Let those people go. Let the other people that want to be able to have an open mind come
exactly, because that's where I would come in, and I'm like, man, I really like this clean, and then you got this screaming because his cleans weren't whiny.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like he went full
dude,
emo mode.
Sounds,
you know,
that dude sounds like Maynard, bro. His singing voice is insane.
It was good.
Like Phil Bozeman should sing way more sometimes.
Why? It's like, why was that kept under wraps for so long?
Because they're trying to conform to the base audience. But the base audience is your biggest enemy sometimes, because you won't be able to grow.
Yeah.
And you see that within any art form. Look at Neil Patrick Harris. How long did it take Neil Patrick Harris to get away from Doogie Howser, MD?
It takes a lot of those child actors a long fucking
Macaulay
time.
Culkin, right?
Dude,
Drew
that dude's
Barrymore.
fucked up.
You know,
Yeah.
like you pigeonhole yourself into this
Well,
realm.
even with How I Met Your Mother too. Like he was like a solid role in that. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to see him.
Right?
What did he do?
Harold and Kumar.
Harold. Well, it's a newer one that he's in. It was for Netflix. Labyrinth.
Oh, yeah.
No,
I forget what it is, but
yeah, I forget too. I think Jim Carrey did a movie of it too.
but
I forget.
Lemony Snicket's or something.
Something like that. Yeah. He was
So-
in that. I'm like, how am I going to see him in this? You know.
But that guy is brilliant because he learned from being pigeonholed to one character to creating a new character, pigeonholing himself in that, but then making that character be applied to all the other shit. So now he's got more recognition.
Right.
And that's a very fine line to teeter. But that's why we don't make the same record twice and we don't stick to a specific style of music. If you go back and listen to all the songs that we released videos for, I guarantee you not one song sounds the same.
That is true.
At all. There's a reason for that because we don't want to be a typical metal band. I don't want to be Lamb of God.
Right.
Lamb of God can only make a certain kind of record for its fans. And then the fans just get mad. Look at what happened when they made The Duke. And the dude sang on the whole record.
Right.
They buried the shit out of that. Look what happened to fucking Suicide Silence. Oh my God. When Suicide Silence came out with that one record that they did with Ross Robinson, God forbid that they tried something different. Good or bad. God forbid that they stepped out at that hole that they made for themselves in that genre in general. And we're like, nah, fuck that. Like, we have other influences, which is always the weirdest thing to me. The fans, for whatever reason, are the most visceral and hateful people, but the band never is. Like, it's so weird back in the early 2000s when we were first starting, how many people would shit on the band because of nu metal, but all the bands that they liked loved Korn, loved Limp Bizkit, loved all this shit. Now it's cool to love Korn and Limp Bizkit again. Now it's like
now it is.
Now it's super fucking edgy to love
but you
Limp Bizkit. You know what I'm saying? But before, like when like
everybody was talking shit about Limp Bizkit just like 2 years ago,
3 years ago, right?
And for a while before that too, just like fuck Limp Bizkit, fuck
You
Fred
know?
Durst, he's a douchebag, blah blah blah.
Shit like
Dad
that,
vibes
right?
comes out, everybody's like, yeah, I fucking love Limp
I
Bizkit.
fucking remember listening to
I've been bumping
you know?
Limp Bizkit all the time.
But it was never the bands. It was always the fans of all those types
Or
of
like
bands.
even like Kid Rock. Everybody's hating on Kid Rock right now.
You know?
Good, go ahead, hate on him. Like he can be a fucking douchebag, but like there was no hate before he became relevant again. It's just like, oh, time to dogpile.
So, you know, for me, I've never wanted to pigeonhole this band. Any of us never have wanted to, because there's a beauty in being able to be eclectic and being able to make art that really resonates as a whole and make really good art. Because when you pigeonhole yourself and you just make yourself in one,
Gotta go soon.
yeah, pretty soon. When you pigeonhole yourself in one aspect of it, then you're losing out on all the other things that you can create.
Right.
You know, that's why for us, we never wanted to just be a emo metalcore type of
cookie
band
cutter.
or a new metal type of band. There is nothing wrong with that at all.
You
just
find it hard to
doesn't
get on like different like playlists or anything like that because
Where
it's
we
so
get on-
vast.
No, we
differences?
don't. I don't. It's not that that's hard or easy. I don't think any of that bands are on has anything to do with hard or easy. All that is
No,
connection.
I mean like just yeah.
We just don't have the
Relate back
connections.
to
Yeah.
earlier. It's about the connections to
No,
get on these.
It's just the
you know.
connections. Like, you know, I always laugh when bands are like, "Oh, thank you for our first 1,000,000 plays." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that must have been really hard to get 1,000,000 fucking plays when you're on like 7 fucking Spotify
Look at my Spotify raps.
editor playlist." Like, fuck off, you.
Yeah.
It's.
But
I
at the end of the day, it's do you have to do whatever you can to get the music in people's ears?
For sure.
You know?
For sure. I have two people that live inside of me. Altruistic Alfonso and capitalistic Alfonso. Capitalistic Alfonso is the understanding side of, I understand it's not about talent anymore. It's not about altruism anymore. It's not about good or bad. It's about living in the United States, corporate mentality, money, money, money. That guy understands this. The one that lives inside of me and that's outside and walks and breathes outside is altruistic Alfonso. And altruistic Alfonso fucking hates the fact that that's the fucking reality. And and he's so cynical when he sees bands, and I won't name them, when they come out and they're like, oh, we got 1 million plays. I'm like, oh, must be really fucking hard and great to be able to fucking talk about that when, by the way, you're leaving out the fact that you're on 7 different Spotify editorial playlists. Your manager knows all of those fucking people, and you don't have to submit anymore. You say you submit because that's the accepted public thing. But you call your fucking buddy at the Spotify place and ask him to put you on that playlist, and you get 1 million. And I know that that's true. And how do I know that that's true? Because we fucked up the algorithm and ended up being on a playlist completely by chance. And in one day, one of our songs got over 70,000 plays in one goddamn day. So the idea that people are like, oh, celebrating 1 million, of course, yes, something to celebrate. But the way that you got there is you're not being honest about it. Right. You're being deceptive. And that shit bothers altruistic Alfonso.
So do you think a band that gets 1 million plays should come out and say that, yeah, we paid to be on 7 playlists this year. We had connections. And
it's not about even saying
should
that.
Should they even come out and say we had 1 million plays? What would you like if you guys got 1 million plays on a song? What would your approach be to spreading the news?
I think the right way to go about that, to still influence people and to still show that you're worth your weight and you did make an accomplishment, because let's not get it twisted. That is an accomplishment. Right. You should not take away from that. Right. But I think the right way to go about it is to just be fucking honest. And you don't have to say much. But the honesty, there's a difference between being honest and going, yeah, well, we called our buddy up at the Spotify place and he put us on these 7 playlists. That's being way too honest. People don't care about that either.
Right.
People don't give a shit about that kind of honest. This kind of honesty. We're so stoked to see that we've gotten over 1 million plays on Spotify. Thank you very much to all the staff at Spotify who we've worked with to help discover the band and get us on those and get us into markets that we weren't able to get.
There you go.
You're saying the same fucking thing without saying it.
Right.
Right? But you're acknowledging your head start.
Right.
That's what bugs me. When people don't acknowledge their head starts. There is nothing wrong with having
Dave
help.
Grohl and like everything.
There's nothing wrong with having help. We all need help in anything in our lives. We started needing help with our parents. You have kids. If your kids ever come to you, you're going to try and help them the best you can because you're a good fucking dude and you're a good dad, right?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with asking for help at all. Failing to acknowledge those who help you, that's what fucking bugs me. Or that you had a head start. So when bands are like, oh, I can't believe we got 1 million plays. This is amazing, blah, blah, blah. And they don't say shit. It's like, motherfucker, I know all about your shit. And I know that you're being fucking, it's not that you're lying, but you're not being forthright. And that bugs me because and I guess I'll end it with the reason why it bugs me is because we're creating a society that thinks that working really hard is what got you to there. That's bullshit. Our society doesn't work like that anymore. Let's be honest with the kids that we're influencing, with the people that we have a responsibility to. Let's be honest to the people who have stars in their eyes and want to be big and famous and want to be like their favorite rock stars, and just be honest with them and say, we had help and this is how we got help. You can too.
Right.
But we're not doing that. We're creating a toxic society by just pretending like we worked hard to get there. And that was the only way you got there. Hard work. Bullshit. That's fucking bullshit. Hard work is half of the fucking equation, right? Sure, everybody works hard. But why the fuck are people who work really hard still homeless?
It's a tough
hard
question.
Work doesn't fucking... That's not the full equation.
Well, let's start with, all the people that are supposed to be solving homelessness making triple digits a year.
Like
if they're making money off the situation, you think the situation's ever going to go away?
Back
to the capitalist market, back to the what are you doing for me?
Like Hard work is part of it, but that's not really it. There's a lot of people that grind their bones into their fucking ground and 70 years old and still end up with fuck all. That's not what it is. So when bands do that shit to me, and there's a lot of that, that's the one thing I hate about this industry is the shadiness and not the forthrightness.
Right.
You can't be a band and say, we paid to be on that tour. And because we paid to be on that tour, we were able to get better opportunities. That's frowned upon. Right. You're making somebody look bad. So you have to be like, oh, we're so glad to be announcing this tour. Right. And that's so misdirection. That's such misdirection.
Right.
Why is it bad to say we were able to get onto this tour by investing financially into it? There's nothing wrong with that.
No. In this day and age. In this day and age, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because that's the way it rolls.
You know, so but we're still hiding.
So to like some, younger up and coming bands and stuff, we'll end it on this because I know you got to get back for your second job because you're a working man, 2 jobs.
That's how I pay for the band. Straight up.
So to like a younger band out there, and they're just thinking about a lot of these things. Maybe they don't know the ins and outs of the industry. They don't know that people are paying for all this stuff or whatever, and they're just kind of like, I don't know what I want to do, or maybe I want to give it up. What would you kind of tell them their kind of main thing to focus on to really push them, get themselves out there?
Number 1, write really good songs. That still matters. Focus on writing good songs. If you're not writing good songs, and you like, young bands' biggest problem is putting the carriage before the horse. They're like, oh, we want to go play shows, we want to go tours, blah 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 blah. You don't have any good fucking songs. You think it's good, but it's not good. I'm sorry, it's not. Very few people are Daniel Johns,
right?
And write a hit right off the rip. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, Daniel Johns is the lead singer of Silverchair, whatever, but if you're probably too young to even know what that is. But anyway.
No, I know what Silverchair is.
So write good songs. 2, learn advertising and marketing. It is everything now, right? You don't need to go out and play 1 billion shows to build a fan base anymore. You don't need to do that. Write a really good song. Save up money. Save up a fuckload of money. And by fuckload, I mean like 10 grand, 15, 20, 30 grand. Save up that money and then fucking dump it into advertising and marketing of this great fucking song that you have. And market the shit out of it for like 6 months. Plan a show. In between all that, plan a show. Get a set done. Get some local bands in your area to do the same. And then play a show. Do that first. If you can conquer that 2 or 3 times in a row, now you're ready. Because if not, you're just spinning the wheels of a squeaky wheel that's never gonna get oiled properly.
And don't fucking listen to all the old fucks out there saying, "What? You haven't even played a show yet. Yeah. You already got a song recorded. You got merch."
They're just so out of touch. They're just out of touch. And I'm
one of those people too. I used to be that's how I began playing. It was just get on stage, start playing your music.
Because that's the generation
that's what we
grew
did.
Up in,
so that's what I did. I just went and played shows. I didn't even give a shit.
I know that format. I know that format because I grew up in it. I'm 40 fucking years old. But the world is your oyster now. You can really actually do this. But you have to be willing to work really, 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 really hard. Really hard. And the way you work really hard is finding your voice in the songs and building connections. That's hard work. Hard work is making connections. That's hard work. That's not easy,
right.
So that would be my advice.
Well, where can everybody find you guys at?
Fuck, man. Easiest thing, heartsick.us. Go to our website and literally every single thing for us is there. If you want to follow us on IG and you want to skip the heartsick.us, just Heartsick Band.
There
Facebook, Heartsick Band. Instagram, Heartsick Band. Bandcamp.
We're gonna be hitting the road next year, possibly.
We're hitting the road next year. We go to Belize on Virago's cruise with Danny Wimmer Presents. So we're gonna be on that. It'll be us, Mudvayne, Rob Zombie, a lot of other big bands. We are on a few festivals that we can't announce just yet, and then we have a tour coming up. So
nice. So we'll be having some announcements coming the new year.
Yep.
Awesome,
sure.
Dude. Well, thanks for coming by. Thanks for coming by.
Nah, thanks for having me. I'd love to do this again, man.
Yeah, let's do it again, man. When we
sure.
Get a little better date and time now.
Dude, my life is crazy. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong to try and get here.
Dude, but that's what I do, man.
Dude,
I work around regular people.
Even coming here, I sent you a picture. Like, I'm not making this shit up. Both of my front tires are fucking flat on the way over here.
Well, let's go get them bitches aired up.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Fun.
But, to every single bad thing.
Problem with pills? Is that our future? Is that where we're slowly getting to? Like the brains just can keep. Those are rams, right? I thought they had horns.
Honestly, I'm not really sure.